the one who listened to him, the one who did as he asked. وَلَا يَنْقُصُ ذَلِكَ مِنْ أُجُورِهِمْ شَيْئًا. And that will not diminish the reward of either of them in the least. So it's not that the person calls someone else to do something, he does it, and he takes all of the reward, and that person gets nothing for the good thing that they did. No. If a person, for example, called a person, invited a person to fast on Mondays and Thursdays, and that person did it, he would get the reward for doing that, and the person who called him would also get the same reward without the reward of either one of them being diminished. So that reward would be doubled, and it would be what? Divided amongst them. This one would get the same reward as what? As the other one, basically. وَمَنْ دَعَ إِلَى ضَلَالَةٍ. But similarly, he who invited others to misguidance, invited them to al-ithm, to sin, invited them to al-bid'ah, invited them to innovations and heresies, invited them to anything wrong, anything bad, anything which is counter or contrary or contradictory to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taught us and what the messenger brought. كَانَ عَلَيْهِمْ الْإِثْمِ. He would receive a sin or sins equivalent to or similar to the sin of the one who followed him, and that would not be diminished. The sin of the two of them would not be diminished in the least. And there's another wording of this hadith which is more, it's more mukhtasar, it's more brief and short. And the scholars, they mentioned it a lot. They say, ad-dar al-khair kafa'ili. The one who invites to goodness is like the one who actually did it. So there's a few things here. Number one, he says, man da'a. Da'a kif, and the one who invited, the one who encouraged, the one who incentivized. A person we need to understand this, is very, very important. A person does not have to invite by saying something, by telling somebody, hey, you should do this, or I encourage you to do that. A person can invite others bil qawl, by telling them, but he can also invite others with what? Bil fi'l, with his action. Especially if he's a person yuqtada bihi. He's a person who has some type of status with people. People respect him, people look up to him, and people typically would do what? Would follow in his footsteps. They would follow his example. And so parents have to think about this. Imams have to think about this. Leaders in any capacity have to think about this. And people who just by virtue of who they are and what they do, their occupation, or how people feel about them, are generally looked at as someone who what? People can follow. All of them have to think about what? Not just what they say, but also what they do. Because how many times have you confronted someone and said, hey, why are you doing that? And they say, well, so-and-so does it. Y'all see that? And how many of us, our parents, have told our kids, hey, don't do that. And then they say, well, you do it. Y'all see that? And so we have to be mindful that we're not just calling people with what? With the things that we say, we're also calling people with the things that we do. طيب through by that, he said, من دعا إلى هدى. Huda, basically he means al-khair. وكل ما جاء عن الله وعن رسول الله. By huda he means anything that is inherently good. Right? Anything is inherently good. For example, a person says to somebody, hey man, eat your greens. Eat your greens, man. And when you make your plate, make sure there's more green than grain. You guys see how Muslims eat nowadays? Jebel Ruz, right? They make their plate, and it's what? It's a mountain of rice, and there might be a cucumber. A slice of cucumber, not even a whole cucumber. This is what? A slice of cucumber, right? Person says to a person, hey, more green than what? More green than grain. Y'all see that? Half of your plate, more than half of your plate should be what? Should be green. And then what? Just a little bit of green. That's khair, that's good, because it's healthy. Y'all see that? So sometimes we call people to something which is huda because it's just what? It's khair, it's inherently good. Okay? Lakin asl huda, what's really meant by huda is what? مَا جَاءَ عَنِ اللَّهِ وَعَنْ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ. What came from Allah and what came from the Messenger of Allah. Anybody who invites somebody to something like that, they'll what? They'll get the reward of the person who actually did it, or a reward similar to the one who did it, without what? The reward of either one being diminished. Now in this hadith, the Prophet is teaching us that a du'at aqsam, right? The people who call, or people basically divided min jihat ad-da'wa ila aqsam. The first one, man da'a wa fa'al. The first one is the one who called people and he did it himself. Y'all see that? And he's what? He's the best one. A'la rutbah. So he says, for example, hey, before you sleep every night, pray witr. Pray witr before sleeping. Yad'u. He tells the people. And he himself what? He prays witr before sleeping. A'la rutbah. Next one is man da'a. I'm sorry. Man da'a walam yaf'al. The one who called, but he didn't what? I'm sorry. The next one in rutbah is the one man fa'ala wa illam yad'u. He does it, but he didn't what? He didn't invite others to do it. Y'all see that? The next one is what? Man da'a wa lam yaf'al. He called people, but he himself didn't what? He didn't do it. But even him, there's what? The Prophet is telling us good in him. Because why? If he called people and they listened to him and they did it, he would get what? He would get a reward like, look at that. Look at the generosity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Called and didn't do anything other than what? Called, but still got the reward. Hey, pray witr before you go to sleep. And you got all these people praying witr before they go to sleep. And he's like, right after the Isha, just rolling into the bed. Y'all see that? Mumtaz. And the last one, lam yad'u wa lam yaf'al. The worst of the worst. Didn't invite anybody and didn't what? Didn't do it himself. ثم بعد ذلك he said وَمَنْ دَعَى إِلَى ضَلَالَةٍ. And that's basically calling to anything that goes against what Allah said and what His Messenger said. Or something that's just inherently bad. It's inherently bad. And this is a really important thing for us to reflect on. Sometimes a person is in friendship with somebody. And sometimes when we're in friendship with somebody, we want to tell them what they want to hear. We don't want to tell them the right thing. And the scholars traditionally, they say something along the lines that they say, صَدِيقُك مَنْ صَدَقَكَ لَا مَنْ صَدَّقَكَ. They say your real friend is the one who tells you the truth, not the one who tells you what you want to hear. But sometimes as friends, we have a tendency to tell our friends what they want to hear. So they say, for example, I got into an argument with so-and-so, and I owe him money. But because he said this to me, I'm not going to pay him. Now, in that situation, as a friend, I need to do what? I need to call to what's good. Man da'ila huda. Like, I ask you guys, what is al-huda fi hadhihi al-hal? And in this circumstance, what is al-huda? I'm riding the car with my friend, and he's all upset. I'm like, what's got you upset? He says, man, so-and-so said such and such and did such and such to me, and I owe him money. But you know what? I'm not going to pay him because he did this to me. Right now, I have a chance to do what? Ad'u. I have a chance to what? To invite. Imma ila al-huda or al-dalala. Either I can invite him to what? To al-huda, or I can invite him to al-dalala. What am I going to say? Am I going to say, yeah, man, don't give him his money back? Would that be huda or dalala? That would be dalala. You see that? But sometimes either we'll do one or two things. We'll say something that basically makes him think that he's in the right. Or we just won't say anything what? Anything at all. And if I don't say anything at all, I'm still what? I'm still a da'i. A da'i lal-dalala. لأن الساكن عن الباطل شيطان أخرس. The one who is quiet when somebody says or does something wrong is what? Is a mute devil. I'm basically telling him, yeah, you must be. He didn't say that, so I must be right. He used me as a sounding board and I didn't say anything. So this is important, ya ikhwan, that we don't want to be the people, we don't want to be the people who call people to misguidance. So when somebody tells us something or they do something, we don't remain quiet because we want to make them feel good or because we want to maintain their relationship. We're worried about the relationship. We need to be worried about what? Pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's one thing. Another thing, sometimes people ask us things, and they ask us in a way to lead us to the answer that they want. And this is something very dangerous for people, for Hadith11, the people who have some degree of knowledge, and people come to them for futya. Is that people will say, for example, oh, Sheikh, I have like 10 kids, and it's hard to get an apartment, and it's just difficult, and you just can't find places to rent, and when you find places to rent, it's so expensive. It's like throwing your money into a fireplace, and you're just wasting money, hand over fist. And so I want to get a house on interest. And you can see why I need to do this, right, Sheikh? You can see why they're like leading you, telling you what the answer is that they want already, right? You can see how I need this, Sheikh. You can see that this is, so can I do it? And why are they asking, can you do it? If they're convinced in their mind that they can do it, they have all the circumstances that would allow them, darura or whatever they think that they have to allow them to do it, why are they asking you? Why are they asking you if they already know the answer?
Make them feel better.
It's ahsant. Both of you are right. One, because that guilty conscience, there's a conscience in there. There's something to say, hey, you shouldn't do it, you shouldn't do it, you shouldn't do it. They want to shut that voice up, that guilty conscience. That's part of it. And part of it is what? Well, the sheikh said. Well, the sheikh said. If he told me the wrong thing, it's his fault. He's responsible. And I've heard people say that. I've heard people say that. I'm telling you, I've heard people say that. Just like that. Well, this is the fatwa that's out there. So if it's wrong, it's on their necks. And one of the early Muslims, he talked about why. Somebody asked him, and they asked him, they said, why are you always like reticent to give futya? Why are you always sending people to other people? How come some people ask you certain questions and you just don't answer? Right? You just don't answer. He said, yuriduna and yaj'alu dhuhurana jisran li jahannam. He said, because these people want to make our backs a bridge to what? A bridge for them to hell. Jisran lahum ila jahannam. They want to make our backs a bridge for them to what? To the hellfire. Y'all see that? They want to basically justify their wrong actions by saying, oh, the Imam said, or Sheikh al-Fulani said, or whatever. Y'all see that? And so we have to be very, very careful when somebody asks us a religious question. If we know the answer is X, we have to tell them X. Or what? Or don't tell them what? Don't tell them anything. And tell them, I'm not telling you this, I'm not telling you that, I'm not going to answer that question, whatever. But never be the person who allows himself, his back, to be what? A bridge to Jahannam. Never be the one who dala alayhi shay ad-dalala. Whether you do it with your statements or you do it with your actions, because not only will you get the sin of telling the person the wrong thing, you'll also get the sin of what? Of the sin they did. Even you didn't do it. You didn't do the thing. But if they do it, you'll get, as the Prophet said, وَمَنْ دَالَ لَضَلَالَةً كَانَ لَهُمْ الْوِزْرِ مِثْلِ أَوْزَارِ مَنْ تَبِعَهُ. You'll get the same sin as the one who followed him. And so just a couple things as far as lessons we can take away. One is, kun hadira. Just be careful. Be vigilant. And be a da'i al-khair. Be a person who calls and invites people to good. And don't be afraid of what? Of backlash, because there's going to be backlash. People don't like to be told anything. People don't like to be reminded. But tell people the good things, because you know that if they actually do it, one, you'll get reward for what? For just what? For saying the good thing and inviting people to good. You'll get the reward of al-amr bil-ma'ruf wa-nahi al-munkar. But in addition to that, if they actually do it, they listen, you'll get what? The reward for that. But at the same time, conversely, make sure you're not being a person who's what? Ad-da'i al-balala. And you could be a caller to misguidance with your words. You tell people, yeah, man, you can get that house on interest. You can do that. You should do it. That's another thing too. Don't tell people to do the wrong thing when you know it's wrong and you wouldn't do it yourself, but you tell somebody else to do that. Don't do that. But sometimes we can also we can guide people to the wrong thing by our actions. We set a bad example. We set a poor example. And this is why it's very important. And some people, you'll see knowledgeable people do this. When they're in public, they won't do things that they would do in private. And some people say that's hypocrisy. Be who you are, wherever you are. No. Because if I have a a weakness, if I have a vice, it's better for me to get my own sin and not the sin of what? The sin of others too. Y'all see that? That's very, very important. That you don't do something wrong and do it what? Publicly. Because when you do that, you might become a da'i al-balada. You'll get the sin for the wrong thing you do, but you'll also get the sin for what? For those who follow you. And so this is not nifaq. This is what? This is self-preservation. And our religion of what? Of self-preservation and what? Limiting our sins. Right? Because what? وَمَنْ خَفَّتْ مَوَازِينُهُ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمْ الَّذِينَ خَسِرُوا أَنفُسَهُمْ فِي جَهَنَّمَ خَالِدُونَ. Those people who their scales are light, they don't have enough good deeds, they have too many sins, they'll be the people who lose in the hereafter, and they'll be in Jahannam forever. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us from those who listen to the talk and follow the best of it. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وجزاكم الله خير.
Question.
تفضل شيخ.
I have two questions.
Two questions.
All right.
Okay, 1.5.
Okay.
تفضل.
So the first one is for witr prayer.
Hey.
Is that better to do it after, right before you go to sleep, or maybe wake up 5-10 minutes before Fajr and do it?
The best is to pray witr akhir al-layla. At the end of the night. At the end of the night, it's the best thing. But some people, they know, or they're afraid, or they're pretty sure they're not going to wake up in time. And so it's better for them to pray witr. If they're afraid that they might miss it, it's better for them to pray witr before they sleep. And then let's say that they do wake up. They can always do what they call naqta al-witr, right? They can always, they can basically undo the witr they did by praying what? Raka'ah wahid. So let's say a person prayed witr thalath raka'at. They prayed 3 units of witr. And then they do that before sleeping because they're worried they won't wake up. Then they wake up. They wake up 4:30 and they've got, 40 minutes or so before Salat al-Fajr. So they're going to pray some. So they do what? Naqd al-witr. Pray 1 rak'ah. That made that 3, 4 now. See that? And so now you can just pray. And then what? Make witr akhir al-layl. So the best thing is to pray witr at the end of the night. But sometimes a person's not sure if they'll wake up. And the Prophet ﷺ actually encouraged Abu Hurairah and la yanam قبل ما يصلي الوتر وكما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. So Abu Hurairah said, my Khalil, he gave me 3 words of advice. And one of them was not to sleep before praying witr. Not because it's better, but because it's al-ahwat, it's safer. So you avoid missing al-witr. Right, what was your second?
Second one is if you see a person who he likes gold and then he has a lot of gold and then he wears them and then you witness that when he tried to guard him, there was kind of confrontation.
Hey.
So what's their position supposed to be? Are they supposed to be quiet? Not guiding him because
you saw him in a confrontation with somebody else, and so you don't want to.
Yeah.
Wallahi, I guess it depends on what do we mean by confrontation? What is the reality of confrontation?
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is that, okay, I guess maybe a better way for me to put that is the reality of the fear. If it's just he's going to say, get out of my face, I don't want to hear nothing you got to say. I know my religion, I know there's nothing wrong with this, or there are people who say, if that's all he's going to say, just a few words, and that's it, it's not going to escalate beyond that. Then yeah, because it may be that 2 things may happen. He may not listen to you when you first tell him, and he may respond that way because a lot of people, when they are confronted about anything, they get defensive. But because he heard it from this other person and he hears it from you, he may leave that, and once his anger calms, he may say, I need to think about this. This is 2 people that came to me and said that. You see that? And so if we are going to command good and forbid evil, and the most that's going to happen is someone is going to say some words that we don't like, then yeah, the benefit outweighs the harm in that case. But sometimes you have people who, when we talk about confrontational might mean that they raise their voice in the masjid. They start cursing and screaming. They what? They want to get physical, right? Or they do get physical. Yeah, then what? Then the harm would outweigh what? The benefit, and we should leave it, right? So basically our religion is a religion that's built مبني على دار المفاسد مقدم على جلب المصالح, that preventing harm is always given precedence over procuring benefit. And it's also a religion that's built upon al-akh bi akhaf al-dararain, that you always choose the lesser of two evils. And it's also a religion that's built upon minimizing the harm whenever we can. And so one of the big things that our religion encourages and it gives a great reward for is telling the people in leadership when they're wrong. Telling the people in leadership when they're wrong. It's like facing. I think the Prophet said in the Hadith, he said, أعظم جهاد قول الحق عند سلطان الجائر. أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. He said the best truth telling, right? The best thing a person can do is tell the truth in the face of what? Of a tyrant. At the same time, Sayyid ibn Jubair, he asked Ibn Abbas, he asked him, he said, Amuru amiri bil ma'ruf wa anhahu al munkar. He said, should I command the leader or the ruler or the governor or the person in authority, should I command him with good and forbid him from evil? Because these people are doing, at that time, these umara, they started doing some stuff, right? And they were like, they were committing evil. They were doing it openly. They were violating the Sharia. And he said, so should I go to him and say, hey, what you're doing is wrong, and so on and so forth. And Ibn Abbas, he responded, he said, in khashit an yaqtulaka fala. He said, if you fear that he'll kill you, no, meaning what? If you fear that what? The harm will outweigh the benefit. And so look at it like that. Weigh every situation. You can't know what's going to happen, what's going to be behind these words, but if you have a good idea, you're of the mind that more likely than not, it's just going to be what? If they push back, it's just going to push back with words. Then yeah, in that case, say what you have to say. Sometimes it's going to be more than that. And if you know that, or you expect that, or you anticipate that, then yeah, just leave the person. Yeah, just leave the person, and because again, our religion is based upon what? That preventing harm is always given precedence over procuring some benefit. Like anybody else, not to further
another question, yes, there's something popular between people. There's like داعية إلى الخير, like he doesn't do it. He invites people to goodness, but
he doesn't do it himself.
So some people, they tell you, although I know that this verse was revealed for the people of the book, but some people tell you, Allah says in the Quran, أتأمرون الناس بالبر وتنسون أنفسكم. Like you are inviting people to goodness, but you forget yourself. You forget yourself. So when you talk with them about this, they tell you, you are ordering people with goodness, but you forget yourself. Like why you don't do this? How can you answer this?
So you're saying, I just want to make sure I understand that basically there's some people who they themselves don't practice something, but they invite other people, and then people will criticize them, and basically telling them you shouldn't give
according to the verse,
right. So what I would say to that is two things can be true at the same time. الذي يدعو ولا يفعل على خطر. Because of the ayah you mentioned, and also because the ayah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا لِمَ تَقُولُونَ مَا لَا تَفْعَلُونَ كَبُرَ مَقْتًا أَن تَقُولُوا مَا لَا تَفْعَلُونَ. Right? Oh, you who believe, why do you say that which you do not do? Most hated in the eyes of Allah is it that you say that you don't do. So it's هو على خطر. لكن هو خير ممن لم يفعل ولم يدعو. Because of what? Because of the hadith. And so two things can be true at the same time. هو على خطر. لكن أن يدعو على علم ويكون كلامه صح. That's better than what? لا يفعل ولا يدعو. So that's how he would answer. He would answer, is that أنا مقصر? And he should admit too. That's another thing he has to admit. He can't dismiss the ayah. He can't be the person who كأنه يستحل. Right? As if he just makes what he's doing okay. He shouldn't do that. He should admit, أنا مقصر. لكن الذي يدعو ولا يفعل خير من الذي لا يفعل ولا يدعو. هذا حق. So he should answer like that. Two things can be true at the same time. هو على خطر وهو غلطان. But at the same time, it's better than what? Nothing. At least he's doing something. Yeah. جزاك الله خير. طيب في شيء يا إخوان. We got a few treats out there. Let's sit for a few minutes and have some hospitality. جزاكم الله خير. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين.